Atri, Angira, Brigu, Narad, Vashishta, Pulastya, Marichi, Kratu, Daksha, and Kula. These are the 10 sons that Lord Brahma created from various parts of his bodies. One of them was Pulastya Muni. Pulastya Muni is said to have generated from the ears of Lord Brahma. Pulastya Muni had 2 sons, Agastya Muni and Vrishava. Vrishava's eldest son was Dasagriva, who was later known as Ravan. So you see, Ravan was the great-grandson of Lord Brahma. Brahma's son Pulastya Muni, Pulastya Muni's son Vrishava, and Vrishava's son Ravan. So he was the great-grandson of Lord Brahma. And then Agastya Muni started to describe the birth of Ravan. It's explained like this. There was a very pious Rakshasa of the name Sumali. Generally, Rakshasas are very demoniac, bloodthirsty, evil demons. But sometimes it happens that a pious person happens to take birth in a family of a Rakshas. After all, Vibhishan was Ravan's brother, but he was a very great devotee of Lord Sri Ram. So it is not that because you happen to take birth in a Rakshasa family, you have to be a Rakshas. We learn from Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad, his father was a demon, Hiranyakashipu. But he was a very great devotee of Lord Vishnu. In fact, he is one of the 12 Mahajan. Swayambhur, Narada, Sambhu, Kumara, Kapilo, Manu, Prahlado, Janako, Bhishma, Balir, Vayasaki, Vayam, Brahma, Shiva, Narad, Sukadev, Kapil, Manu, Prahlad, Kumar, Bhishma, Bali, Yamraj, and Janaka. He is one of the 12 Mahajan. So it is not that because you take birth in a Rakshasa family, you have to be a Rakshas. No. So Sumali was one such person, a very pious Rakshas. He was thinking that because at that time the demigods were very powerful, they had very powerful influence over the universe. In order to preserve the dynasty of his Rakshasa dynasty, it would be very important for him to get his daughter married to a very austere Brahman sage. Then he would have Brahman Rakshasas. And then they would be compatible with the demigods. So Sumali had a very beautiful young daughter of the name Kaikashi. She was actually, her name was Cassini, but she was known as Kaikashi. So we will remember her as Kaikashi. And Sumali requested his daughter Kaikashi to go and marry a very austere Brahmin sage of the name Vrishava. Vrishava was living in the jungles, performing great austerities and gaining tremendous powers through that austerity. So Sumali requested his daughter Kaikashi to go and marry Vrishava, this great Brahmin sage. So Kaikashi, she went to meet Vrishava, this great Brahmin sage who was performing tremendous austerities in the jungle. So Vrishava was in meditation. She went and she came before him, offered her obeisances to this great Brahmin sage. And Vrishava opened his eyes and he saw that she was so beautiful, Kaikashi. And Kaikashi said, "Please, oh great Brahman Rishi, please satisfy my desire. Neither Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, or any of the demigod could possibly satisfy my desire. My desire is for you. Please marry me. And I'd like to have children through you." And Vrishava was a kind-hearted sage. And he was also attracted by Kaikashi's beauty. So he said, so he went back into his meditation to see what would happen into the future. Because these great Brahmin sages in previous yuga, they could penetrate into the future. They could penetrate into the truth. So he went back into his meditation and said, "We will have children, but because you approached me at a very inauspicious time, these children will be evil demons, evil Rakshasas. They would cause the entire universe to suffer and cry in agony. and they would head the Brahmins and the Rishis. Now Kaikashi, she was a very pious lady. She was also very religious, although she was a Rakshashi Kanya, born of a Rakshashi. So this broke her heart that she was going to have children like this. So she said, please, please, can't we even have one child that can be a great devotee of Lord Vishnu? So Rishabha went back into his meditation and he said, our last child, our youngest child, he will be a very great devotee of Lord Vishnu. And his name will be remembered by all time to come. So soon they had children. The first child that came out of the womb of Kaikashi had 10 heads, 20 arms, and 100 fingers. And from the moment he came out from the womb of Kaikashi, all his eyes were rolling red in anger. And he was looking around with so much hatred and envy, all 20 eyes. And fire was flying out from his 10 mouths. This is not the kind of infant that we have seen in our life. Rakshasas, please understand what is a Rakshas. They are like demigods. They have this power, the strength, and the duration of life, that of devatas, that of demigods, except they are very demoniac. So the parents named this child Dasa Griva because he had 10 heads. The next child that was born, instantly it starting growing huge like a mountain. And from his very infancy, he would grab any animal, any human, anything that provided it had blood and flesh, he would just swallow and chew and eat them. Gigantic. It is said that he had the biggest body on the planet. The parents named this child Kumbhakarna. The third child that was born was a girl, but not like girls that we see around. She was very deformed and very ugly. And she was the very embodiment of lust, envy, and greed. The parents named this child Surapanaka. Then there were other children as well, Khara, Dushan. And the last child that was born was very gentle, very humble from his very birth. The parents named this child Vibhishan. He was very gentle, very polite, very humble, very respectful from his very birth. So these children, they started growing up and they grew up very fast. Now Vrishabha had another wife of the name Idvida. And from Idvida, he had a son of the name Kuvera. Kuvera happened to be in charge of Sri Lanka. At one time, Sri Lanka was the capital of the demigods. Sri Lanka was built by Vishwakarma. He is the architect of the demigods, Vishwakarma. And he made Sri Lanka the most magnificent and opulent city on the planet. It was 240 miles in length, Sri Lanka, and 800 miles wide, of pure gold. Each and every home was made of solid, pure gold. So Kuvera was in charge of Sri Lanka. Kuvera happened to pay a visit to his father, Rishabha, his great Brahman Rishi. And on that day, Kaikashi happened to be there, the mother of Dasagriva and Kumbhakarna. And when she saw what great wealth and opulence Kuvera had, in comparison, her sons were very, very simple and practically had nothing. So Kaikashi told her sons that you should go and perform great, great austerities and gain tremendous powers so that you can also have wealth like Kuvera. So this family went to a holy place called Gokarna. It's between Goa and Udupi, on the western coast of India. There, Dasagriva, for 10,000 years, he did not eat anything, never took any water, never slept. He practiced perfect brahmacharya. never saw a face of a female.